this is Gary with Aldan American. Today we're going to do coilovers on this Prowler. Follow along and see how it's done. So the first thing we're going to do our fronts. So these two bolts here are the lower shock mounts. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the bolt.
So now we're going to move to the upper bolts, access them through the hood here, and both upper and lower use 21mm headed hardware. So when the original shocks came off, the tabs on the aluminum forging for the upper shock mount have been squeezed a little bit. So this here just needs a little teeny bit of cleanup so it'll fit snug between the aluminum tabs. I'm using the alignment tool so that I can line the hole up in the bottom of the shock to the frame. I'm going to put my bolt in, and then I'm going to put my nut plate on the backside. What I'm going to do now to get the upper bolt hole lined up is I'm going to take this jack, put it under the lower A-arm, jack it up a little bit so the upper shock tab and bolt holes align. Then we can get our bolt in place. I have installed both of the front shocks, but I have not tightened any of the hardware down yet. We need to put the car on the ground and settle it to check our ride height. If we have to adjust our ride height, we will have to remove the shocks to get access to the lower spring seat to make our adjustments, and then reinstall them and recheck them. We are now going to move to the rear of our Prowler. We will be taking the upper and lower shock bolts off, and then we can remove the original coilover shock. Now that we've taken the spring off of our original rear shock, we're going to remove the shock from the clevis. Now I'm going to show you how to do that. What I found I can do is there's this little notch here that the factory used to assemble the coilover shock. I take my air chisel and break it loose, and then I can unscrew it. We're taking the shock off, and I've found that it has to be in a vise like this. Whether you use the air chisel method to break it loose, the other method I've used is a pipe wrench. You place the pipe wrench on the lower end of the shock and unscrew it. Now that we've taken the clevis off the original shock, we will reuse it on the new coilover shock. We will now screw the new coilover shock into the clevis. Prowler has bearings on the top of the rear shock. We include these adapters because the bolt is 14mm and it's also wider than the bearing. So by using these adapters, it makes it a true bolt-in coilover kit. I'm going to use a little copper-based anti-seize on the threads. We do not want to put it together dry because of the possibility of the aluminum galling. We have this wrench available and it fits into the wrench flats on the shock. It has a square on it so you can put a 1/2-inch drive ratchet and use it to tighten down, but first you have to put the clevis in the vise. With our clevis mounted in the vise, we're going to use our wrench to tighten it down. Now that we have assembled our clevis onto the shock, we are going to take the little spacers, install them in the top bearing, then we will drop it down and install our bottom bolt. Now that we've put our shock in place, I'm going to adjust our dampening knob full counterclockwise. This is our rebound. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks, and I will use that as my starting point. We're now going to install our wheels and tires, put the car back on the ground, check our ride height, and if we need to make any adjustments, we'll use our spanner wrench to adjust the spring seat so that we can achieve our final ride height. For more information about this Prowler kit, check us out at aldanamerican.com.